Hey guys, Static here, and today on Dungeon Guide we're going to be covering Veteran Hard Mode Volenfell. Here in the desert you'll find a lot of the regular humanoid mobs. The only exception here are that the ranged casters tend to utilize fire attacks, most of which are interruptible. Your first boss fight comes very early in this dungeon. You'll have a single lion surrounded by 3 lionesses. What a stud. These lionesses don't really do anything other than just soak up damage. The regular lion, on the other hand, has a group fear that everyone will have to break free of and run back to him. He will periodically reposition himself, but realistically, the fear is his only mechanic. After defeating the boss, you're going to want to use these stairs to your left here. This cuts off a lot of the mobs to your right here, and also behind this area. So you're going to want to come up here, clear this, and then take a left, and you skipped a bunch of mobs. This boss fight is unique in that it contains 3 separate phases. The interesting thing to note here is this boss can ignore taunt. He just happens to pick our tank here, so we got lucky, but you might not be that fortunate. In the first phase of this fight, the boss really just uses light and heavy attacks and then has this spin attack. Doesn't do a ton of damage, but you should still get out of it if you're a little squishy. If you're not the tank and you have aggro, he can use this move while he's mobile, so you'll just have to kite him. After a while, the boss goes back and he'll pick up a flaming staff. Now he'll be using flame attacks on the group. The first one is a heavy attack, but when it connects with the party member, it will leave a large AoE. Next is this flaming ghost attack, which fears, so your tank needs to point that away from the rest of the party. In between, he just uses light attacks. Here's another look at that heavy attack resulting in an AoE fire. So if the heat's too much for your tank, just pull him out of that fire and keep the damage up. When he gets low on HP, he's going to connect to this Gargoyle statue up top, and look at what happens. This will begin phase 3 of this fight. This summoned Gargoyle has his own set of unique abilities. As with most boss fights, your tank will want to turn the boss around, the problem being his first attack, this conal, will just go on to whichever party member he likes. If you're hit with this, you're going to be petrified and turned into stone. Then there's this giant AoE pound. Go ahead and get out of this unless your healer, like Wiko here, has hots that can outweigh the damage done from it. So basically this fight is just a lesson of stay out of the red. Eventually you'll come to this secret tunnel. Inside it's unveiled that buried in this desert are ancient dwarven ruins. Throughout the rest of the dungeon, you'll now find the addition of these Droomer mobs to the trash. This boss is a fire beetle. He's surrounded by smaller beetles and they don't really have mechanics and burn down pretty quickly. This boss's only main offensive mechanic is this giant AoE fire that's going to come out from him and actually does a lot of damage per tick, so it's a great idea to get out as soon as you see it. He also can just reposition himself by diving under the ground really quickly and go behind the tank. Nothing else offensive here, just watch out for that big red AoE. After defeating this boss, don't forget to go to the back of the room and activate this lever. You won't be able to progress any further throughout the dungeon unless you do this. You'll eventually stumble across this Centurion. You just want to block his heavy attacks and either dodge roll or block his spinning attack, otherwise he burns down really quickly. He's really just here to give us an idea of what's to come later in the dungeon. The first thing you want to do when you get to this long hallway is activate this switch at the beginning. If you want to play it really safe here, you can just poke the mobs and pull them back to here to fight them. The reason the hallway is dangerous is because of these steam vents. The steam hurts a lot. Once you and your party sprint through the steam gauntlet of death, you'll come to this boss. Burn down the ads quickly as you're going to need the extra room to avoid mechanics. This boss's main attack is this jumping AoE pound, so keep your distance if you can help it. Your tank just needs to watch out for light and heavy attacks. The boss does have a randomly chosen target that it will shoot an arrow at. When this happens, you'll get an AoE under your feet that explodes. You cannot dodge this, so just get away from your party members. After defeating the boss, pull the lever behind him as Wiko does here. This not only shuts off the steam vents, but it opens up this door leading to another lever. This lever unlocks the last boss room. This boss fight has no ads to deal with, however our tank, he's got a personal vendetta against Dune Rippers.
They killed my dog.
So he's gonna make this fight more interesting. Furthermore, he pulls these mobs to the right, which you also do not need to do. Anyways, this boss fight is an easy one. He's got a conal tail swipe, so the tank needs to point that away from the group, and then he will bury under the ground, travel to a random player, emerge, and do a knockback as he lands on the ground. These are the only two mechanics that you need to watch out for. Don't forget to activate hard mode before engaging these bosses by reading the scroll here on your left. This boss fight is very unique and interesting. Each of these bosses have their own mechanics and behave very different from one another. The green one has a one-shot mechanic that your tank must block. The red one ignores taunt and just kinda does his spin attack towards whoever the hell he pleases. And the blue stays stationary and fires rockets into the air to a random player. As you saw there were large green beams connecting from the green boss to the other two. Yes, this is a healing mechanic. So a lot of parties assume the wrong thing, which is, hey, that green boss heals, let's take him out first. This is incorrect. The absolute safest and quickest way to deal with this boss fight is exactly like we are right here. The tank holds the green one off to the side and just deals with those heavy attacks. Next, whoever has the red boss, whoever it may be, you just kite them around the room. That is your only job, to just remove him from the equation completely. Your main DPS target in this fight is the blue boss. The reason being, this boss is stationary, he does not move, you just kinda do-si-do around his rocket attacks, and you just keep pouring on the damage. Now, why do we do this? Is it because he's the biggest threat? No, it's because he is the easiest to damage. Look at the HP of the other bosses. These bosses share HP. If you burn down the blue boss, you burn down all three bosses. And this is a mechanic that most people in this fight do not know. This fight gives groups a ton of trouble. The reason being is they just aren't following the mechanics. You really need to just understand that you only need to attack one of these. We take down the blue boss here, and the other two are almost dead because they pretty much share their HP. Everyone had a job here. The tank kept the green boss off to the side and just dealt with those one-shot heavy attacks. Wiko's been kiting this red boss around the room from the beginning of the fight. Both of these bosses being occupied allowed for the DPS to just hammer on that blue boss, effectively burning down all three. If someone's on the quest, after this boss fight, the NPCs will enter this room. They'll destroy this Eye of the Guardian, and then you must run to the end of this area as skeletons will pop up out of the ground, and they will not stop until they get blood. Your NPC to complete your quest will be located safely here. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. Please smash that like and subscribe button below for future content releases. I really appreciate the support everybody's been showing me. So I want to just say thank you to each and every one of you. It really means a lot to me. See you guys later and catch you next time.